dilated and relaxed. But the thing about cayenne pepper is that it's super spicy, so not everyone can tolerate it. And there are other forms. Sometimes it comes in, you can either use it in its raw state, or you can also use it in a capsule form. And it certainly you'll benefit from its health properties in either form. But one of the ways that I know cayenne pepper is used the most, especially in detoxifying, is there is something called a master cleanse. And generally it's paired up with like lemon juice, clean water, and cayenne pepper. They're kind of mixed together, and you sort of just drink that on a daily basis throughout the day. And it really helps to detoxify your body. But it's really, as I said, the cap in it that gives it its spiciness, and that also is responsible for its health property in detoxifying. And again, if you like spicy things like I do, you don't hold back. You really just like spice up any food that you're eating. It's nice as a garnish. It has a really beautiful bright red color. So if you're serving something and you want it to really enhance the appeal or the attractiveness of it, you can garnish with it. You can just throw it in to change the spiciness of the food, soups, stews, any kinds of cooking. Or you can just drink it, as I said, with lemon juice.
With lemon juice,
Yeah.
okay. Ms. Cameron and Dr. Noel, we have gone way over our allotted time. But of course, I'm going to give both of you a minute to make any general remarks to our viewers. Anything, Dr. Noel? You can go first.
Right. Well, I must say that it was a pleasure listening to Ms. Cameron.
I agree.
There are a lot of
Very
things
informative.
that I came off, and it was quite informative, and I would bear with a lot of what she said. One thing I need to mention is that hypertensive have to pay attention to the lifestyle. They have to pay attention to the diet. They have to reduce the salt intake, less than 2 grams a day, less than a teaspoon. And oftentimes mean no added salt, because they get a lot of it from the other ingredients that they use in the cooking. And quite often they hypertense to me and said, well, I'm using sea salt. But sea salt have the same amount of sodium as the regular cooking salt. So we have to pay attention to our diet. You have to exercise at least 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. You have to limit your alcohol. You have to stop smoking. And most of all, if you're overweight, you have to lose at least 10% of your body weight. So we have to pay attention, not to medication, but to lifestyle. And know the medication, ask the doctor's question, make sure that the kidneys, check the cholesterol, check the blood sugar, and so.
Okay. Ms. Cameron?
Well, Dr. Noel really summed it up nicely. What I'm going to add is I really want to emphasize that we really need to appreciate and demonstrate appreciation through taking the actual steps to really change the way we eat, and by understanding how we can include our herbs and spices into our cooking so that we don't have a need for these packaged all-purpose seasonings that are on that are high in sodium, and that's really going to elevate our blood pressure, and that we can really just create these nice herbal blends and add them to our foods so that we can get flavor, and we do have to have this excess salt, as Dr. Noel mentioned. I mean, the difference between salt and regular table salt is just that because the salt is the result of evaporation, get these minerals not processed, whereas you get the salt from these salt deposits and it's processed so that it becomes really fine and it can dissolve easier in cooking and things like that. So you would not get the minerals in it. So you would get some trace, minerals like magnesium, calcium, potassium, these kinds of things. But he makes a relevant point. The same 40% sodium in both of them, you know what I mean? So they both have the same impact on your blood pressure level. And so we really need to understand that eating local, flavoring our foods with local herbs and spices, not adding any processed seasonings to it, these are the steps we need to take. Also, we have to understand that we have to find the kinds of exercise that work for us so that we stick to it. Your stress level plays a major role in your blood pressure level. And you have to be able to really tap into these mind and body kinds of, therapies as well. So whether it's yoga, whether it's just going for a long stroll on the beach, whatever it is that helps your mind to relax so that you can really help bring that blood pressure down. If you don't like to run, don't choose to run. Do something you enjoy so that you stick to it. And really try to find balance in what you do. These steps can really prevent and manage these chronic conditions and really allow you to have really good quality of life. You can live for a very long time with a chronic disease, but note that they are preventable, and that is through lifestyle choices.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Cameron, and thank you very much, Dr. Noel. And
My
viewers,
pleasure.
just to recap, some local foods that can aid in the prevention and management of hypertension are cayenne pepper, nuni, Mobi, sea salt, apparently not sea salt, cocoa, cinnamon, basil, or gum, as we call it locally, ginger, coconut water, and celery. Some of these, Ms. didn't get a chance to tell us exactly how we can use it and how it benefits us because we're running out of time. But for persons who are not hypertensive, you can add these to your diet. For persons who are hypertensive and are taking medication from your physician, please do not forget or do not neglect to consult your physician if you are thinking of adding these to your diets and you are on medication. Yes, Dr. Dr. Noor, that is correct?
Sure.
So thank you again, viewers, for joining us for this episode of Health Matters. I'm your presenter, Chriselle Benjamin. Very much for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Noel and Ms. Cameron, for being here. Until next time.
But what would further implement the various elements of the CSME. We also will be looking at other areas of the economy. The chairman of the Commission on the Economy will also be reporting on its work. We know that Prime Minister Mitchell is also the chairman of the World Bank States Forum, and we also have with us the president of the CDB. And all of this will result in us looking at various aspects of our economy. For instance, we'll have a discussion on access to financing for development, which as part of the work that we're doing in terms of our sustainable development. We'll also be receiving a proposal that has been worked upon by UNECLAC, a proposal for debt for climate adaptation swap, which should be a very interesting proposal. Various sectors of the economy will also be looked at, but in particular tourism, and we will be having a presentation as the result of work of a working group which was comprised of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, as well as the Secretariat. We'll be making a presentation. We know tourism is a major component sector of our regional economy. So we want to be looking forward to that. And of course, part of the tourism is transportation. And we're hoping that the multilateral air services agreement, which we've been working on for some time, will get policy sign-off from heads of government on that issue. It will allow greater ease of travel in the region in terms of CARICOM-owned airlines. And we hope that the heads will be able to approve of all the policy aspects of the multilateral air service agreement. Also, we will be looking at the ICT, the roadmap towards a single ICT space. We know ICT has to be a major player in terms of competitiveness in our region. We have a roadmap that we'll be putting forward in terms of seeking to achieve that at the end of the day, ICT, we're hoping will be able to deliver on cheaper and ubiquitous broadband and lower the cost of doing business to the extent that e-commerce becomes more and more part of how we do business in our region. Human resource development will also feature prominently. The Commission on Human Resource Development will be presenting the strategy, which was mandated by heads, HRD 2030 strategy. It will be presented by the chair of the commission, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. That commission comprised a number of experts in the field of education and training, as well as in ICT, youth, the private sector, and labor representatives. We're hoping once that is adopted, member states will begin to implement. It's looking at issues such as open schooling, digital learning, distance learning, alternative learning options, and support for youth initiatives to address youth entrepreneurship and employment, and also to enhance teacher training. Health will also feature very prominently on the agenda. This is 10 years since we adopted the Port of Spain Declaration on NCDs, on health and NCDs. NCDs is a major issue in terms of our health sector. We're seeing obesity becoming more and more a problem, especially among younger people. And I've seen some estimates that suggest that NCDs is costing our region anywhere between 2 and 5% of GDP. So while it has an impact on individuals' health, it also has an impact on the state and the ability to provide support for those suffering from these NCDs. Security will also be on the agenda for discussion. We have long said that crime and security is a regional problem that has to find a regional solution, looking at a number of instruments that will facilitate addressing the crime and security situation in our region, and that will also be presented to our heads of government. We will have a discussion on our continued trade with the United Kingdom post-Brexit. We have, in fact, been having some informal consultations, discussions with the UK government, and proposal for us to roll over the current EPA agreement that will allow for there to be no trade. As you know, the trade of the United Kingdom is currently governed by the EPA agreement. So once Europe pulls out of Europe, then of course we have to have another arrangement, and we're hoping to have a seamless shift across to ensure that the trade continues. So this is a way of a few of the issues that we'll be dealing with. Of course, the border issues of our member states, Belize and Guyana. Border issues that we will be receiving an update from the respective member states on those issues. So, Mr. Moderator, by way of an introductory comment, I'll be open for any questions that one may wish to ask in this regard.
Thank you very much to the Secretary General, Ambassador Erwin Lorock, for this opening statement, going through some of the issues that the heads will be discussing at the summit. Let's say thank you very much to the Ambassador for this opening statement and going through some of the issues that the heads will be addressing at the summit in Grenada. Now, this is an opportunity to throw to the media, whether in Grenada here, which we have local media practitioners and regional media practitioners here as well, or social media on the Facebook page as we stream live, where the regional media they're also monitoring this, and they're being given an opportunity to pose questions to the SG on this Curtain Raiser News Conference to the Caricom Heads of Government Summit. So just identify your name and your media house, and you can pose your question.
Paul McAdam from DPI Guyana. Sir, we are about to enter into being an oil-producing state in Guyana. Will Caricom have anything to add some input on this issue going forward?
It's not now on the agenda, of course. So I don't know if a discussion will come up. Renewable energy certainly will be discussed in terms of, I'm hoping that we can have our heads to agree to the signing of an agreement that will establish the Caricom Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Agency that will assist member states in renewable energy. But in terms of the petroleum sector, it's not currently on the agenda.
Peter Richards, CMC, Barbados. Mr. Secretary General, the Caribbean countries recently showed that they were divided on the issue of Venezuela. Venezuela, the relationship of what's going on in Venezuela. You had, for example, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines with the support of Antigua and even Dominica, the latest one, to say, well, they're not interfering in the internal affairs. And then you had, on the other hand, Jamaica asking for some form of intervention or what have you. Do you anticipate that being an issue being discussed by the leaders, given the fact that the CARICOM foreign ministers had unanimously agreed that there should be no interference?
Well, the agenda for the heads of government meeting will be adopted on Wednesday morning, and I guess we'll see what emerges out of that agenda. Currently, the issue of the situation in Venezuela is not inscribed on the agenda. I wish, however, to say to you that there are some basic principles that the community has elaborated, and those principles still hold. All our member states ascribe to the statement issued by the COFCOR, the Council of Foreign and Community Relations, of non-interference, non-intervention in the internal affairs of the sovereign state of Venezuela. This holds, despite what you may have read about a particular text being considered at the OAS, those principles hold. I think we have to wait for the outcome of the meeting to see what statements will come out of this meeting on Venezuela, if any.
But so you're in effect saying that the Caricom leaders will have a united position coming out of the summit on Venezuela?
I have not said that. What I have said is that we have basic principles that we are united on that continues to inform our approach to dealing with Venezuela. And whether or not the matter is discussed, we have to wait to see what is the outcome of the meeting.
Is Mr. Maduro going to be the quote-unquote secret guest?
I'm not aware of any secret guests. I certainly am not aware of that.
So who's going to be the high?
We don't have any special guests for this meeting.
No
special guests. We have a number of facilitators for some items on the agenda. Special guests, as you know, is normally reserved for heads of government, heads of state, head of the UN and agencies such as that. We will have with us a number of facilitators for different items. For instance, I mentioned the Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization will be there for the tourism item. We have the Vice President, a Vice President of the World Bank who will be there for financing for development for small states to facilitate specific items on the agenda. But we have no special guests.
Janelle Persad, NCN Guyana. The ACP Secretary General had said that, had expressed the view that Caribbean countries were not doing enough to discuss the post-Cotonou agreement in 2020, and he called for more to be done as it relates to that. Guyana's foreign minister had also said that we seem to have been focused heavily on Brexit and not looking at the benefits that we derive from Cotonou. Do you feel that we're doing enough as it relates to the post-Cotonou, the successor to the Cotonou agreement?
I think we certainly are. We have had several discussions. First of all, the item is on the agenda for heads of government, the post-Cotonou and our preparations for negotiation. It is on the agenda. Heads have had 2 previous discussions on the matter. Foreign ministers have had discussions on the matter. Going forward, foreign ministers of Caricom have had it, and the Council of CARIFORUM has also had discussions on that. Only 2 weeks ago in Cancun, it was, CARIFORUM foreign ministers had a consultation with one of the commissioners of the European Union on the matter going forward. The negotiations will be launched next year, about a year from now, and we will be ready. We certainly will be ready. The matter is being discussed and from all various angles.
Just to follow up on that, the ACP Secretary General, Dr. Gomes, is supposed to be in Haiti. Is he going to be in Grenada for the summit as well? No,
regrettably, he told me that he has a schedule that doesn't allow him to come in. Yeah, he was invited, of course, as a colleague and friend.
Okay, before we go on to our next media practitioner present and here, let's go to Kendall Morgan, who is monitoring the Facebook page. Kendall?
Okay, we have a couple of questions, but I'll take one for now. From Miss Beverly Sinclair, Island Media. Let me just get the original one. It's about where on the agenda to the issues of Venezuela, citizenship by investment, and correspondent banking fall. Also, the CARICOM Russia invitation extended by PM Skerritt.
Can you take your time and tell me? There seems to be about 5 questions rolled up in one. Yes. I'm not sure.
Okay, so
I gave an indication of what's on the agenda already. So can you just maybe give me one at a time?
Right. Where on the agenda to citizenship by investment, the Venezuela issue?
Let's go one at a time. Citizenship by investment is not on the agenda as a specific item on the agenda. It's not. We've had discussions on that over 2 previous meetings. It's not currently on the agenda for this. Of course, in a fluid agenda, anything can come up, but it's not currently inscribed on the agenda.
And correspondent banking?
Correspondent banking, we may, within the context of the broader economy, get an update on where we are with it. The heads looked at it in great depth the two previous meetings. The central bank governors, the chair of the Committee of Central Bank Governors gave us a report at the last meeting in Georgetown in February. So it will come up. It's not a specific item on the agenda, but as I mentioned, that the economy is going to be discussed. The continued impact on us continues to be a major concern. We continue to raise the matter at every opportunity we get with the relevant authorities in those countries that have an impact on the international banking sector.
Let me slip in another one. Loop News Barbados. They're saying that movement between the islands is too expensive and restrictive. What is Caricom doing to improve this?
Well, as I mentioned, the Multilateral Air Services Agreement, the policy for which we will be putting to heads for approval, will allow for better, I should say, more opportunity for inter-regional travel. And if you'll just permit me, I will give you some of the elements of that piece of work that we are dealing with. The agreement concerns operation of Caricom air carriers, so it really is focused on those owned by Caricom nationals, big and small, and we have a number of small operators in the region. It provides for fair and equal opportunity for all Caricom air carriers to compete in air transportation covered by the agreement. So, for instance, SVG Air, which I saw when I landed here, would have the ability to fly for the region once certain standards of safety and otherwise are met. That will provide more interregional airlift to our community. And as airlines grow and expand, it will also allow for more cargo to the extent that is something we're looking at. Of course, the issue of cost of transportation, air transportation, is one that continues to concern us. It will come up again. The transportation model in our region is unique, short haul, takeoff and landings and the like, but it's something that is of concern and that will also be looked at. We have, within the context of the Commission on Transportation, our airlines are talking to each other. That will also be discussed. The airlines are looking to see how they can cooperate and collaborate better to allow for, that is the Caricom Airlines, to allow for doing certain things together that could result in economies of scale and purchase of spare parts, etc., for example. That's it?
Yeah, one on crime and security. These are from different people. Yeah. Crime and security, is that an issue?
Crime and security, as I mentioned, is an issue on the agenda. It's always on the agenda. It's something that continues to concern us, and it will be discussed, yes.
Okay. Before you switch, let me say, good, whatever time of the day it is in London, several people are shouting us up, and those in New York.
I neglected to say something, and I have to apologize for that. The opening ceremony, there'll also be an award conferred on Miss Shirley Price of Jamaica. I really do apologize for not mentioning that. Miss Shirley Price, as part of the opening ceremony, the Caricom Triennial Award for Women. Miss Price has been a staunch advocate for the rights of domestic workers in particular and human rights in general in the region, and she will be lauded and awarded the Triennial Award for Women. I did apologize for not mentioning that sooner.
All right, and Kendall is going to continue to monitor the Facebook page. So regional journalists, you can pose questions, and journalists from the region and Grenada here and present, we switch back to you. Questions?
Good morning. My question has to do with the proposal from ECLAC. Can you share some more on what that proposal? You did mention it's going to be about debt swapping.
Yeah.
There has been some discussion in Grenada recently. Can you just share more about that proposal from ECLAC and probably the countries that it is targeting?
Well, it's a proposal that was first raised by ECLAC when we met in Barbados. It's one which we welcomed in principle. Basically, our region, many of our member states are heavily indebted, and that debt is occasioned in large measure by external factors, whether they be severe climatic events as of recently. Many of our countries are rebuilding and repairing the same infrastructure over and over because of the destruction by bad weather, and also by economic externalities. And the proposal has been put forward that some arrangement be put in place with the debtor countries to allow for that debt to go into some type of a fund that could be used for climate change, adaptation and mitigation. That's as far as I will say at this point in time. It more than likely we'll have to look at it in greater detail with our ministries of finance to see what it's entailed, but I'm hopeful that is something that will gain currency with our debtor countries and international institutions.
You did say it's a proposal from ECLAC.
Yeah, UN
Can you
ECLAC.
confirm that it's also involved in Nature Conservancy grouping?
I am aware that the Nature Conservancy grouping is probably receiving some resources, similar type of resources maybe from Germany, but I'm not sure. So it's more or less along the same line. Germany has also put forward a proposal that will allow for resources to be made available for environmental issues.
But it is not part of that.
No, it could. Right now, it's a general proposal from ECLAC that has to be shopped out, of course, once it is developed properly and shopped out to our creditor countries and international institutions. To the extent that Germany has debt in our region, we'll be more than happy to discuss those matters with them as well.
Good morning, sir. Leslie Ann Johnson, Government Information Service, Grenada. Can you just expound for us, in terms of the NCDs, as you mentioned a while ago, they're costing the region between 2 and 5% of GDP. What can we do? Because I know this is a major problem.
It's a big
in the
issue.
Caribbean. What can we do to
Lifestyle.
this down?
The simple answer is lifestyle. What we eat, how we eat, when we eat, is a major contributing factor to our state of health. As you know, we tend to eat a lot of fast foods, high in salt, and other cholesterol-inducing products. More exercise. We don't exercise enough. Many of us are walking with a big punch in front of us. Not Peter Richards, it's size slim and trim. More exercise. Smoking is an early harvest. Smoking, we know, causes untold damage to not only the smoker, but secondary smoke. Smoking will get particular attention because if we, that our health ministers have been talking about labeling, pointing to the dangers of smoking, public education, and also we have to start looking at what kind of foods and vending machines we make available to our youth in schools. School feeding programs is another way of allowing for that. So there are a number of issues, and we will be having a presentation on it. Hopefully there's some measures that we can agree on that member states will adopt collectively at a national level going forward.
Thank you. And Carifesta will also be discussed?
Oh yes, Carifesta. We will get an update from Prime Minister on Carifesta. Plans are well afoot. Just last week or a week before, I met with the Minister of Culture of Barbados, and plans are well afoot for a good Carifesta celebration. I understand 23, maybe I shouldn't give a number, but quite a number of countries will be coming in for various activities in Barbados. And I'll be there as well, and I invite you to come.
Just to follow up on what Ms. Johnson would have asked about the health discussion, will there also be discussion on the issue of mosquito-borne disease? From between 2013 to now, we have had a series of ailments related to mosquito, from chikungunya, Zika. So right now we're on alert for yellow fever. Would there be discussion among that kind of
not specifically on mosquito-borne diseases? You know, we've had several sessions on Zika and chikungunya, CHIKV. The ministers of health continue with the assistance of CAFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, and PAHO, Pan American Health Agency, in working with member states collectively. It is monitored regularly by our chief medical officers as a collective, and CAFA continues to provide assistance where they can to member states, as I mentioned, PAHO as well. It will not specifically be on the agenda, but certainly it is something that is getting very, very active consideration going forward.
My question is on implementation. Since the last meeting, are you comfortable with the level of implementation at member states level and even at the Secretariat? And what are some of the challenges that you've been having, if any at all, when it comes to implementing the decisions that are taken at that level?
I always would like to see better implementation of the decisions that we take. I mean, there's always a few things I consider we could do better. But I think we're doing not too badly, if I may say so. We tend to focus on what is not being done rather than what is being done very often. The Caricom Single Market and Economy in particular, we took stock of that at the last meeting. Between then and now, we prepared, and that will be discussed, is being discussed with member states. We're not yet at the point where we can say that this is going to be adopted as the way forward, but a roadmap for those countries that are lagging behind in certain areas. We're in discussion with them on time frames that need to be adhered to. That does not mean that the rights and obligations that member states have by virtue of the Treaty of Chaguaramas or by decisions taken is negated, because the mere idea that you take a decision, the treaty is very clear that decisions are binding. And if, of course, member states do not allow for the rights of certain citizens, we do know that citizens have in the past, both natural and companies, taken the community before the CCG and member states, so that is always there. But I think, by and large, when you look at the number of other areas that we're dealing with, the wide scope of things that we're dealing with, we're not doing too badly, but there's always room for improvement.
Just a quick follow-up. There is the perception, and I've heard, I always hear in Guyana people talk about Caricom is a waste of time, or I'm not sure if the same is true for other Caribbean countries. And I remember heads talking about clearing that perception. What has been done in recent times to improve that kind of thinking among the Caribbean people?
It's constant communication to the people of the region in terms of what we're doing, what we're achieving, what we're planning, and how we go forward. And sometimes I think we take for granted what it is that we're doing. Colleague asked a question about chikungunya and other mosquito-borne diseases. A lot of work has been done. All of the lab tests out of Guyana for chikungunya were done by CAFA, a Caricom institution. Every single lab test that went across had to be transported to Trinidad and Tobago, where the Caricom Public Health Agency lab exists. I believe it's a level 3 laboratory that is certified and so on. And we keep forgetting the other things that we do. When a hurricane strikes or disaster strikes, how CDEMA moves in and the like. So there are a number of things that we do, and we just have to keep on informing our citizens. It's not just the Secretariat and the Secretary General who has to keep on doing this. The member states themselves need to say what's going on and how they're benefiting from it in terms of functional cooperation in a vast number of areas: education, health, our advocacy in the international community. All of these read down to the benefit of member states. We have been working, for instance, on issues of per capita income as a basis for funding, and we're beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And if this work is not constantly ongoing, and I said to someone the other day, imagine if there were no Caricom. A number of things that we take for granted would not be there. So we have to do a better job at communication, basically, both from the standpoint of the Secretariat as well as the member states. That is, in a nutshell, is what I would say to you. I regret that the person thinks it's a waste of time. I don't think it is.
Ambassador,
Absolutely
good morning.
not.
Eugenia Peters from the Grenada Broadcasting Network. Over the last month, ACSEAL, a student-based organization, has written to the Secretary General, yourself, and various Caricom leaders requesting that you address or commit to the issue of the discrimination in legal education caused by the 1971 Caricom Treaty. In light of the Caricom Human Resource Development Strategy 2030, carded for the upcoming discussion, do you see this as an important issue concerning or requiring a contemporary response from Caricom?
Who you said wrote to the Secretary General? I'll have to tell him that because he hasn't received any such correspondence.
ACSEAL, a student-based organization, has a concern as it relates to discrimination in legal education caused by the 1971 treaty.
Legal education, again, something that is being addressed. I know the Council of Legal Education, at the request of the heads of government, has done some work on it. I'm very much aware of a consultant providing some advice on the way forward. That has to go to the Council of Legal Education for review. It has to come to the Legal Affairs Committee before it comes to the heads of government. All I will say to you is that the current situation where certain graduates have preferential access to the legal education is something that needs addressing. Mm-hmm. It does. I think any graduate coming out of our system, once they meet the qualifications, should be considered for admission to law school. Now, there is a problem of space, a real challenge of space. I'm very much aware, for instance, Hugh Wooding Law School is busting at the seams. I understand from the head of that institution that the current cohort of students is probably more than double what was initially planned for. Mm-hmm. So there's some issues there as well. And if you have to expand, there's cost issues and so on. So it's not a simple admission policy issue. There's a complex set of issues that has to be looked at. It is being looked at.
Thank you. Can we also have your position on two issues, a call for the legalization of marijuana within the region and also reparations?
There's a commission on marijuana that has begun consulting. It's an independent commission. I think we should allow the commission to do its work. They started doing some work and we had to slow it down because of funding. I think we're now in a position where during the second half of this year, a series of consultations throughout all of the member states will take place. I am hoping that they can complete these consultations in time for a report to come to heads next year. But it's an independent commission. It's not one that is staffed by personnel from the Secretariat or anywhere else. So let's see what they come up with. We will be getting an update on where we are on the issue of reparations. It continues to be an issue that we are looking at and addressing, and the chairman, the lead head, will be addressing heads on that matter in the meeting, and we'll wait for the outcome of that discussion.
On the question of the United States-Caribbean relations, Mr. Secretary General, President Trump has made it clear, put America first. He's even spoken about renegotiating NAFTA and what have you. How concerned is the Caribbean, and do you foresee that issue, U.S.-Caribbean relations in that environment? How concerned would you say Caribbean leaders will be? Is it should be, and would it be an important item to be discussed at this summit?
We will be having, our foreign ministers will be having an encounter in the margins of the meeting here in Grenada this week with the Undersecretary of State, Tom Shannon, and specifically to address Caricom U.S. relations. And of course, I'm sure our foreign ministers will then report into the heads. We are very encouraged by the recent passage in Congress of the strategy. The exact name eludes me right now, but spearheaded by Congressman Ingalls and others. I'm very much aware that the State Department is actively preparing, or they have published the first strategy, I believe. I saw it online. So all of that will form the backdrop to the discussion. We continue to be concerned, of course, that the cut in funds to the State Department does not impact us in Caricom. We are currently receiving a significant amount of resources, women in the region, individual member states, and collectively under the Caricom Basin Security Initiative. We trust that that partnership will continue and urge that the funding levels do not decrease. We know that the Americans have cut funding on HIV and AIDS, which we regret very much and have informed them. But let's wait and see what the discussions come out of later this week, and we'll have a better sense of it. We have requested engagement at a higher level, and we await a response from the Americans on that.
So can you speak quickly to the Human Resource Development 2030 strategy and the implementation plan to address the development of skills for the Caribbean economy?
Yeah, the Commission, as I said, will be reporting. If you don't mind, I will just highlight some of the issues. It's going to be looking at a system not just only of academic education and human resource development, but a whole of life approach to education. Vocational education, for instance, will be a more prominent issue in terms of our education specific skills and how they factor into determining your level of competence in a particular area will also be looked at. The issue of entrepreneurship, multilingualism, leadership skills, etc. All of these are going to be factored in. Teacher education, all of which will hopefully see a change in how we teach, curricular change eventually. We have begun working on an implementation plan. Although the heads have not yet adopted, we anticipate they will adopt it because our ministers of education have accepted the strategy. We began working on consulting on an implementation plan for that strategy, and we'll be giving you a little more information. I am hoping that we will have a specific media encounter, perhaps on Wednesday afternoon. We want to do 2 special media encounters. We're still trying to work out the details, one on the NCDs and one on the human rights development, the human resource development strategy. Definitely, the NCDs, I think, is well in train, but we're also trying to put something together for you, giving you a lot more information and facts on the HRD strategy as well. So look out for that on Wednesday afternoon.
And just to let the media know that those news conferences, They will probably be happening at the St. Andrew's Room, which is basically set up for things like this. It's set up for that. This is where we'll have the closing news conference, the St. Andrew's Room at the Radisson Hotel. Right, you go up the steps. Some of the old journalists who've been there long would know. Okay, so we.
all of the journalists here are young.
I think someone said young-ish, you know. Okay.
Without exception.
Yeah. We're just about close to the wrap-up stage. Maybe if we can squeeze in one more question. That's it? Okay. Right. So I think we have been well briefed on this curtain raiser news conference, thanks to the SG. A wide range of issues to discuss by the leaders in Grenada for the next few days. Of course, the opening ceremony from 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, live at from the Trade Center, and it's beamed live through the region, all stations available, and I think it's also live on the Caricom website as well. Social media, people in the diaspora, everyone can now interact and receive it. Thank you very much, all the media practitioners coming, local and regional, and we say thank you very much to the SG team, Secretary General, Ambassador Erwin LaRocque, Secretary General of Caricom. Thank you very much.
Stepping off the plane is so easy to breathe again. Life in the big city has finally took its toll, and it's been so long, but I'm finally home. And what better place to rest my weary bones than on this beautiful island where there's so much to see. Every corner I turn, there's something there to remind me of my beautiful nation and what it means to me. Not a thing out of place, that's what's special about it. And do you hear? It's the songs the birds are singing. Do you hear? It's a sound that's ever alive.